Thank you for committing to work as an Edison Research exit poll interviewer. Your work is extremely important to this project. This training presentation will review the materials and procedures you will use on Election Day. All of the information reviewed is also included in a training manual available for download. Let's begin by reviewing what election exit polling is and why it's so important. On election night, the major news organizations provide election analysis to millions of people around the world, telling them not only which groups voted for which candidate, but also which issues are important to them. Universities analyze and report on this data as well. Here are just some examples of how exit poll data is used on and after Election Day.
Let's look at the exit polls, which point out some of the challenge that Republicans face. Let's put them up on the screen. Republicans lost women by 11 points, Hispanics by 44 points, and young people by 23 points.
This is the makeup of the American voting electorate in 2004, 2008, and 2012. White to non-white.
What he did in Ohio was he did well enough with white working class voters, and then the African American turnout in Ohio was 11% in 2008. It was 15% in this election.
In order to collect this data, Edison Research hires interviewers like you to stand outside of polling places across the country and survey voters as they leave the polls. Several times throughout the day, interviewers call in their results to our Election Day headquarters. Edison Research then tabulates this data, and the results are reported after the polls have closed. Prior to Election Day, you will receive a package that will include a pink fact sheet outlining your Election Day responsibilities, special Election Day instructions on where you're allowed to conduct your interviews, an introduction letter to provide the election official as to who you are and what you'll be doing, a state or county credential letter acknowledging your intent to survey voters, color-coded refusal and miss code sheets to keep track of those who do not participate in our survey, color-coded tally sheets for you to record your results, questionnaires for voters to fill out, a ballot box, pens and pencils, and a badge, a W-9 form, and a prepaid return envelope. Everything you need to know for Election Day is listed on your pink fact sheet. It contains your precinct ID number, the name of your assigned precinct, the polling place address, and your specific interviewing rate. The pink fact sheet also indicates when to arrive at your polling place, when to make your results calls, and the toll-free numbers to use when calling. When you arrive at your polling location, the first thing to do is meet the polling place official and explain your intention to survey voters on behalf of Edison Research. Then, verify the precinct's name. Let's watch an example of how an exit pollster begins his day at his polling location.
Hi, I'm from Edison Research, and I'll be exit polling here today.
What is exit polling? I haven't heard anything about this.
Edison Research was hired by the news media to conduct a public opinion survey. I will only ask people to fill out questionnaires after they have voted. The questionnaire is entirely anonymous. Edison Research has no affiliation with candidate or the campaigns of anyone or political parties. I've got a letter here from the Board of Elections.
Okay, let me take a look. Okay. Yeah, this letter indicates where you're allowed to stand.
Now, I'm here specifically to survey voters in a precinct called Precinct 14. Is there a precinct by that name voting here today?
Yes, Precinct 14 votes right here.
Are there any other precincts voting here as well?
Actually, yes. We have 3 precincts total that vote at this location. Precincts 12 and 13, they vote over there.
Then, ask the election official to help you determine where you can set up to interview voters. Your special Election Day instructions describes the state law and where you are allowed to stand. Since it is likely that you will be stationed outside, be prepared to work in any kind of weather. If your location makes it difficult to approach voters, call the problem number on your pink fact sheet immediately.
And where do the voters exit after they vote?
There's 2 exits to this building, but most of the voters, they're going to use the door that's over there.
And can I stand outside the door?
Yeah, I can show you. You just can't block the door and you can't interfere with the voting.
Thanks so much.
After you've met the official and found a good spot to stand, call Edison Research for your check-in call. During this call, You will confirm your arrival and let us know of any problems you are experiencing. If you do not make this call, we assume you are not there, and we cannot pay you. As soon as you complete the check-in call, begin interviewing voters according to the interviewing rate found on your pink fact sheet. For training purposes, we will suppose your interviewing rate is 3, but on Election Day, use the interviewing rate listed on your pink fact sheet. With an interviewing rate of 3, you would approach every third voter that passes you and only ask that voter to take the survey. Then start counting again and approach the next third voter that passes you. If there is more than one precinct voting at your location, you do not need to ask voters which precinct they voted in. Do not adjust your interviewing rate without instructions from Edison Research.
Hi, I'm taking a short confidential survey for the news. Would you please take a moment to fill out a questionnaire? It'll only take a couple minutes.
Sure, who's the survey for?
It's for the media organizations listed here. The data will also be used for research at universities across the country.
Okay, I'll fill it out.
Thanks. Here's a questionnaire, pencil. Fill out the questionnaire entirely, then fold it and place it in that ballot box right over there.
Can I fill one out too?
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to follow a special procedure when selecting which voters can participate.
What does that mean?
It means I can't choose who to interview. If I did, it would ruin the reliability of the poll.
Okay, I'm all finished.
Great. Thank you so much for participating.
You will receive your interviewing rate with your Election Day materials. Following your interviewing rate correctly is the most important part of your job because it tells you which voters you should approach. It is much more important than completing lots of interviews. If the interviewing rate isn't strictly followed, your data will not be accurate. Not everyone in your interviewing rate will participate. If a voter who falls within your interviewing rate refuses or ignores you, mark that person as a refusal on your refusals and misses code sheet. If you are unable to approach a voter within your interviewing rate, mark that person as a miss. Then, use your best judgment and record that person's sex, age, and race.
Hi, I'm taking a short confidential survey for the news. Would you
I
take
don't
a-
have time. I don't fill out
It'll only
questionnaires.
take a couple minutes.
Listen, I said no. Please leave me alone.
Thanks for your time.
There are several blank refusals and misses code sheets for each of your 3 call periods. There should be a sex, age, and race for every refusal and miss circled on your sheet. At this point, do not just approach the next person who passes you. Instead, start counting again and approach the next voter within your interviewing rate. Only record refusals and misses while you are interviewing voters, not during breaks or while tallying or calling in results. At the end of each call period, count the number of refusals, the number of misses, and the numbers of each demographic category, and record them at the bottom of the refusals and misses code sheet. Do not include the demographics of anyone who has completed a survey. As mentioned earlier, you will make 3 exit poll results calls on Election Day. Each call has a different color tally sheet: blue for the first call, yellow for the second, and green for the third. Before you can call your results into Edison Research, you have to fill in some information on your tally sheet. First, ask the polling place official for the number of people who have voted at your precinct so far that day. Remember that we only want the number of people for the precinct listed on your fact sheet. This number should be a running total from the whole day and not just the number of people since your last call period. Let's see how our exit pollster asks for this information.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could tell me the total number of voters who have voted so far in Precinct 14?
Yeah, sure. Let me check. I have 100. Okay, and I've got 253. So a total of 353 voters so far today.
Okay, so 353 voters, and that's just Precinct 14, right?
That's right.
Okay, thanks so much.
Record this number in the top section called Total Number of People Who Voted. Next, find a private location where you can go through each completed questionnaire and mark down how many people said they voted for each candidate or issue listed in the section called Tally Your Questionnaires. You may have multiple versions of each questionnaire. If this is the case, include all respondents, not just one version. Let's watch our exit pollster separate his questionnaires and tally the results.
Okay. One for Washington, one for Jefferson, Washington, Adams, Washington, Jefferson, and the last one, Adams. Okay.
Record these tallies in the section called Tally Your Questionnaires. Then, look at the totals from your refusals and misses code sheets and record them in the refusals and misses section of your tally sheet. You may have filled out multiple code sheets, so be sure to add them all together for your final total. Again, do not include the demographics of anyone who has completed a survey. When you have completely filled out the tally sheet, call Edison Research. During this call, the operator will ask for the number of tallies you recorded for each candidate, the total number of people who voted at your precinct so far that day, and your refusals and misses. Then, you will read the responses for each individual questionnaire. Read the letter of the question and the number of the answer. If the operator asks for a version number, it's found in the upper right-hand corner. Here's our exit pollster reading in his questionnaires to the operator.
Please have all your questionnaires in a single stack. You'll be asked to read some questionnaires, and you may be asked to skip others.
Please read the answer to each question like this: A1, B3, C2, D blank, etc., until the end of the questionnaire. When you are finished reading your last questionnaire,
Please let me know, and we'll start with the first one.
Sure, this is version 1. A2, B1, C3, D2, E. Wait, there's 2 responses for E.
If there are 2 answers marked, please read that as a blank.
Okay, E blank, F3, G2, H2.
Each exit poll results call can take between 20 and 40 minutes to complete. If you plan on using your cell phone, carry a charger with you. After you have made your third exit poll results call, pull out your purple final precinct vote count sheet. Wait at your polling place after the polls have closed until the election officials print, post, or announce the results for your precinct. If there are multiple voting machines, ask the polling official for all the machines that were used by voters in your assigned precinct. Record the number of votes cast for each candidate in each race listed on your purple sheet for your assigned precinct. If there are several precincts voting at your polling location, remember that we only want the final vote count results for the precinct listed on your fact sheet. Once you have collected this information, call and report these results. When the day is over, mail back your materials in the return envelope provided. We need your completed W-9 form before we can process your payment. Do not include questionnaires which have not been filled out. Please allow at least 2 weeks to receive payment. Some final tips and reminders. On Election Day, bring all the materials provided by Edison Research, along with the following recommendations. Appropriate weather gear, such as a raincoat, umbrella, jacket, hat, gloves, boots, sunscreen, etc. A fully charged cell phone, with a charger or backup battery if you have one. A calculator. Meals and snacks for the day. As you are a representative of Edison Research, we ask you to please dress appropriately. The more professional you look, the more likely voters will be to cooperate. Here are some common questions you might have on Election Day. When can I take a break? You may take a 15-minute break after each call period to rest or have a snack. Additionally, you may take bathroom breaks as needed. Is this survey confidential? Yes, the information is completely confidential. We do not know anyone's name or address. We are only interested in voters' opinions. What if a voter who is not in my interviewing rate wants to take the survey? Explain that you are using a scientific process when approaching voters. If the person still insists on filling out a questionnaire, allow them to fill it out, but do not include it during your results call. What do I do if the press wants to speak to me? Please do not speak to anyone from the press. If anyone insists on information, have them call Edison Research. Do not give out Election Day phone numbers to anyone. This is the end of the training presentation. Feel free to rewind, pause, or replay this presentation in order to review specific questions. Or you may press Next to continue with the training.